All right, continuing the sugya of Megillahs Esther that we started yesterday. So we're up to Pasuk Base. We spent a bit of time on Pasuk Aleph. Let's go now a little bit of Pasuk Base. Bayomim hoheim kesheves hamelech achashverosh al kiseh malchusoi. Got a lot of interesting details over here we have to work out. Asher b'Shushan Nabira. So in those days, when King Achashverosh sat on the throne of his kingdom, which was in Shushan, the capital. So let me say like this, as we said yesterday, there are so many messages and lessons, practical ones, that we can learn from the Megillah. Yesterday we pointed out some of them. We did a bit of an introduction to understand of how that you see the Hashgacha Pratis in every single word of every single thing that goes on in the Megillah. But let me just go on with a couple of ideas that I want to do over here. So if you look at the passage that we just read, it seems as the Megillah is giving us a historical fact. Okay, it's giving us a nice fact. In those days when he was on the throne, which was in Shushan, which was the capital, very nice, great fact. We needed to know this. We said yesterday I had to set the stage for the story. Okay, obviously it goes much deeper than that. Okay, so Chazal tell us that there's no such thing as an insignificant comment, especially if it's in Chazal, and this is part of Tanakh. There's a Mordecai Medrash. The Medrash says that Achashverosh was longing to have the magnificent throne of Shlomo HaMelech. Shlomo HaMelech's throne was known to be just out of this world, something special. Yeah, and Achashverosh really wanted to have that because, a lot of gaiva to have such a throne. That's an amazing thing. So therefore, says the Medrash, no, much after. So he hired the best and most skilled, artists and furniture company makers, whatever, in order to do that. And we all know this is a famous Chazal, probably one of the most famous Midrashim that there is in Megillahs Esther, that it was too big to be brought to Bavel, which was really the capital of Achashverosh's empire. So what they did was, okay, let's change the capital from Bavel to Shushan so that he will be able to rule while being seated on it, right? So basically, there was a technical issue. And that technical issue caused them to move the throne to Shushan. Now Shushan became the capital. Says the Vilna Gaon in his parish on Megillahs Esther. Look closely. The Rabbanu Shalom is turning the screws. The Rabbanu Shalom is turning around things that don't seem to make sense, that don't have any relevance really. What do we have to know? It makes a difference to us where the throne was. It makes a difference to us where the capital was. But really, the Rabbanu Shalom was setting the stage for the entire story of Purim because the detail of Achashverosh's throne made a big difference. And that's why the second Pasuk in the Megillah tells us that. And by the way, the Vilna Gaon continues to explain also something interesting. He says there's a halacha that we mentioned yesterday. Remember we mentioned the halacha that a person has to hear every single word of the Megillah, which is very unusual. Because generally speaking, all right, you miss a word, you miss a letter, and here all of us, it's amazing, what's the pshat? So the Vilna Gaon explains the reason of the halacha is because missing a word will take away from recognizing the Hashgacha Pratis. And therefore, again, in our own lives, as we said yesterday, if you look in the Megillah, you don't see on a surface Hashem's name, but Hashem is all over the Megillah if you look for it. And therefore, says the Vilna Gaon, based on Pasuk Base in the Megillah that we just read, if you look into your own lives, you will see a tremendous amount of Hashgacha Pratis. You will see a tremendous amount of HaKadosh Baruch Hu's Hashgacha in the world, which is amazing. Now, based on this Pasuk, there's another Medrash. I want to read you this Medrash. Listen to this. Again, based on this Pasuk, it says, as I'm going to read it again, B'yomim mehem kesheves hamelech Achashverosh al kisei malchusoi. Okay? On his, says the Medrash, Esther Rabbah, Yud Beis. Omar Rav Evoy. Ksiv, it says the Pasuk in Tilim. Everyone knows this Pasuk. Ki la Hashem hamlucha. Very good. Moshe Bagoyim. Says the Medrash, it says, Ki Hashem hamlucha, to Hashem is the malucha. Va'ata oimer, they said the Medrash, and now you're telling me, al kisei malchusoi, that Achashverosh is sitting on his malchus, kidu, it's his, and not Hashem chas v'shalom. What does that mean? Pasuk Tilim says not that way. Ella, says the Medrash, that anachanami, Avada Klal Yisrael had the Melucha in that case. And that's Ki Hashem HaMelucha. But the problem was they did Averis. And once they did Averis, it was given over to the Umas HaOlam. And says the Medrash wants the moment Klal Yisrael do tshuva, HaKadosh Baruch Hu noit l'ma'od d'chava v'achziv lehem Yisrael. HaKadosh Baruch Hu will take it away from the goyim and give it back to Klal Yisrael. A Masai, when's that? Ba'alim Moshe Mahar Tzion. Says the Medrash that Kol Zman that Klal Yisrael are acting in the right way, then the Malchus of the Rabbeinu Shalom is spread, is influencing around the world. But the moment that Klal Yisrael do Averas, HaKadosh Baruch Hu takes away that Malchus and gives it over to the Goyim. So just from this posuk alone, Al Kisei Malchusoi, what's beneath the surface is to recognize and remember that Klal Yisrael, and that's every one of us, if we're doing the right thing, then we are, so to speak, influencing and spreading the Malchus of Hashem around the world. But we do something wrong, then we're causing it to be given to the Goyim. And also, by the way, on this posuk as well, another Mordecai Medrash, where the posuk again, K Sheves Hamelach Achashverosh Al Kisei Malchusoi. What's K Sheves? It sounds like there's a grammatical problem over here, right? It's not my kasha, it's the Medrash. The Medrash says like this, ready? Umas ha'olam ein lem yeshiva. When it comes to Umas ha'olam, there's no sitting, there's no kviyas. Sitting means kviyas. When a person is sitting, it means he's set. He's set in that situation. He's being koveya, sitting over there. There's no kviyas when it comes. No yeshiva when it comes to Umas ha'olam, says the Medrash. V'lachein, that's why it says, Lo yoma b'sheves hamelach, when the king is sitting. Ela like Sheves HaMelech, which means it's not a real sitting. He's not actually being kfiyas in that case, in that over there, right? It says, for example, by the Pasuk in Shoftim, Yudalev, Sheves Yisrael b'cheshbon uv'v'noi seha. So what do we see from here? We see from here, says the Sfarim HaKadoshim, that when it comes to Goyim, who seemingly are in charge of the world, or in charge of many decisions that are being made in the world, don't worry. There's no real yeshiva. The goyim that's sitting in government, that are sitting in places of power, you never have to be worried, because it's like the posuk in Megillah, which is K Sheves HaMelech. They are seeming like they're sitting, but they're not really sitting, because really the Rabbanu Shalom is in charge. The Rabbanu Shalom is pulling the strings. They are puppets on strings, and you clearly see that from the Megillah in so many different ways. What things that happened to Achashverosh, they're like, hi, how'd that make sense? What happened over here? Because the Rebbeinu Shalom was pulling the strings. And if we go a moment further or two, we can also understand as well, as Rebbe brings in his beautiful Sefer, Kimu V'Kiblu, on Megillahs Esther, this idea is exactly what happened to Klal Yisrael when they were busy with the Sudas Achashverosh. Now we know that was a terrible thing to do, and they were warned not to do it. And Mordechai understood with his Ruach HaKodesh, with his Das Torah, he understood that this party that Achashverosh was making was not stam. It wasn't an innocent party that would just be okay. He understood it was the Satan, and it was the Satan trying to get Klal Yisrael to do one last Avera and cause annihilation and destruction to all of them, which, by the way, is what happened. Because the Gemara tells us in Megillah, there were Nen and Suda. They had Hanar from the Suda. And it was that last, as they say, straw that broke the camel's back, that was the Makkah Patish. So Mordechai Tzaddik understood that it shouldn't be done, and he told everyone not to do that. And as we know, unfortunately, the Olam did not accept his word. 18,500 Jews participated in the Sudas Achashverosh, and it caused tremendous things to happen over there. And this is the reason why the Gzeira was written to annihilate, to destroy, and get rid of all of the people in Klal Yisrael. In fact, just under the cover as well, as Rebbe brings, B'Shem the Vilna Gaon, at the time that they wrote the Gzeira, so Eliyahu Novi heard about the Gzeira. By the way, Eliyahu Novi makes his appearance many times during the Megillah. You won't see it, obviously, because it doesn't say it. Many times, Eliyahu Novi makes random, mysterious appearances into the Megillah. So this is one of them. Okay?
What was it hinted about?
All over the place. It's impossible for me to... No, not like that. Different, you have to... The Medrash goes through each one, it's different. So when they wrote the Gzeira, Eliyahu Novi heard about it. So you know what he did? Again, it's all brought down in Chazal. Eliyahu Novi woke up Moshe Rabbeinu, and he said, and understand, whenever there was a problem in Klal Yisrael, you're the one, Moshe Rabbeinu, that saved Klal Yisrael. You always daven, you figured it out. You always managed to save Klal Yisrael. So, okay, do you want to help them out right now? Because right now this is looking pretty bad. So Moshe Rabbeinu asked a question to Eliyahu Novi. He said, tell me something. When the Rabbeinu Shalom gave the seal to the Gzeira, was it with blood or was it with cement? So Eliyahu Novi went, he looked, he said, I'll get back to you. And he reported back to Moshe Rabbeinu, it was actually sealed with cement. So Moshe Rabbeinu said, okay, if it's sealed with cement and not blood, that means there's still hope. Is there 100% a tzaddik amongst Klal Yisrael at this generation? And he said, yes, Mordechai had tzaddik. So Moshe Rabbeinu told Eliyahu Novi, go and tell him what happened to him in Shemayim. Tell him what is being prepared down there in the earth, which is Xera to destroy Klal Yisrael. And when the time comes, take action through tefillah, through davening. It's the only way they're going to be saved in that case. And when that happens, I'll also say my piece, and I'll be able to do that. So why is the Vilna Gaon telling us this? Because this is way before the Xera even happened. Nothing had happened at that stage. This was at the time of the Suda of Achashverosh. Nothing had been revealed. Klal Yisrael knew nothing was happening. But what was really happening in Shemayim is the Rebbeinu Shalom was preparing the refuah before the Makkah. As the Gemara tells us very clearly, whenever there's something that's going to be for Klal Yisrael, the Rebbeinu Shalom has always prepared that which it can be remedied by, it can be saved by, way before it even happened. And that's what happened over here as well. Now, there are many other situations as well, which we'll have to get to, of what the Megillah tells us, specifically, and how we can open it up, to try and open up, again, this is only pasuk base, just to see some lessons, what we can learn from there. But again, the idea of seeing what's going on, what's under the surface of the Megillah, it's just an amazing thing to see this. When you hear the Megillah on Purim, again, we've only done 2 psukim, and hopefully maybe next week we'll do a couple more psukim, whatever we'll get to, but just open up a few ideas of realizing what the Rebbeinu Shalom is doing. And maybe in your own life, when you see things that are not happening, things that are going wrong, you'll recognize, like, whoa, what's going on over here? Don't worry. The Rebbeinu Shalom has this. He's got your back. It may look terrible like it did in the Purim story. It looked gefährlich. When they invited Esther to the party, right? There's a private party between Achashverosh, Haman, and Esther. Everyone's going Meshiga, that's it. She's changed sides. That's it. Esther, we put her into, we're jumping ahead. Let's give you an example. We put her in to help us out. They're inviting her to the party, that means she's obviously changing sides. It's all over. But little did they realize that was setting the stage for things that was happening later. Small things, like when Achashverosh woke up, we're all familiar. Again, I'm only going to just mention this because I don't know if we're going to get there in the psukim. When Achashverosh woke up on the night that he couldn't sleep, he was tossing and turning, he couldn't sleep, he couldn't figure it out. So he needed to ask someone, everyone knows this, right? Who did a favor for me who was around at that time? It's unbelievable. The cleaners, basically, the Arab cleaners were the people that were around. Everyone else was on vacation. He had sent everyone out, that's a whole story on its own. And the only people that were around were them. And because that happened, they realized Mordechai Tzaddik needs to be paid. Like the hashgacha pratis, the strings, the things that are going on in Megillah is absolutely unbelievable. We're going to try next week, a few days, to go through a few more psukim, try to open up the layers of the Megillah's Esther Be'ezah Hashem. But again, just think about it today and think about it in your own life. Things that happen, make no sense, that look bad, the Rebbeinu Shalom got your back. The Rebbeinu Shalom has already prepared the refuah before the Makkah. All right,